Welcome back to Real Savant, where we bring you recaps of the most awesome movies and TV shows. From action, to horror, to comedy, to something the family will enjoy. We have something for everyone. Today, we bring you Die Hard, where we follow NYPD detective John McClane saving a building full of hostages held by a heavily armed team of bad guys. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. The movie kicks off with a freaked-out traveler landing in Los Angeles for the festive season. Enter John McClane, a New York City detective drowning in a 6-month backlog of scumbags he's trying to nail. A well-meaning stranger advises him to kick back and relax by going shoeless at his hotel, a suggestion John soon wishes he never heard. Turns out, John's estranged wife, Holly, moved their kids to LA for her gig at Nakatomi Corporation's half-done American HQ. She's extended an invite for John to spend Christmas with the kiddos, and he's crossing his fingers for a shot at reconciliation with her. Upon landing, McClane gets a warm welcome from Argyle, a newbie limo driver on his first gig. Argyle's tasked with driving John to Nakatomi Plaza, where Holly's rocking an office Christmas bash. Argyle's the friendliest soul in LA, throwing in the offer to chill in the garage in case things don't go smoothly with Holly, ready to drive John to a hotel. As John checks out the building's staff directory, he learns that Holly's switched back to using her maiden name instead of McClane. Heading to the elevators, John picks up on the fact that security's taking it easy for the holidays. He hops on the 30th floor and starts scanning the crowd for Holly. Instead, he runs into her boss, Mr. Takagi, whom he thanks for the limo ride with Argyle. Takagi guides him to Holly's office. In the same room, there's another employee, Ellis, caught in the act snorting lines, desperately trying to play it cool in front of the cop. Hans has been eyeing Holly ever since she joined Nakatomi, but she completely snubs him when she enters. Holly, still carrying a torch for her husband, takes John to the corporate bathroom to freshen up after his flight. She offers the spare bedroom at her new place, but things take a turn when they start arguing about her now going by her maiden name, leading to her being called away. As the festive bash continues, a hefty truck sneaks into the garage, while a car pulls up out front. Two men stroll in, shooting the guard at the security desk dead with a silenced pistol. Theo jumps on the computers, working to access the Nakatomi vault, while his partner Carl takes out the lazy guard who's still in the same spot John noticed earlier. The remaining members of their 13-man team roll out of the truck in the garage, led by the crafty German mastermind, Hans Gruber. They split up, with Theo and Hans taking control of the building. The youngest, Tony, is tasked with taking out the alarm system, nearly beaten to it by his big brother wielding a chainsaw. Meanwhile, John follows the advice of the fellow traveler and kicks off his shoes when Gruber's 12 hit the 30th floor. The sound of gunfire catches John's attention as the group takes the partygoers hostage and herds them into the foyer. John manages to stay out of sight but ends up barefoot, thanks to the laid-back suggestion. In the quest for the operations manager, Gruber spills personal details about Takagi to the crowd until he steps forward, concerned for his children. Takagi is taken a few floors up, where Gruber reveals his plan to steal $640 million worth of bonds from the building's vault. Theo and Carl place a bet on whether Takagi will give them the access code, but Theo wins when the father of 5 refuses, resulting in Hans executing him. John manages to sneak into the room but can't save Takagi, witnessing the brutal murder. He nearly gets caught by the more unhinged Carl. John heads to an abandoned construction floor and triggers the alarm, hoping to alert the police. It briefly works, but Tony enters, thinking John is just a regular partygoer. However, he shoots wildly, and John gets the drop on him, engaging in a reckless rear-naked scuffle. The brawl ends when they tumble down a stairwell, and Tony's neck snaps. John grabs Tony's weapon and gear, but realizes the dead guy has smaller feet than his sister, forcing John to continue barefoot. The corpse is sent down to the 30th floor with a jolly warning that the fly in the ointment is now armed with a machine gun. John hides on top of the elevator, jotting down any useful info he overhears. Carl is seething over his brother's death, but Hans orders him to cool off until Theo can work his magic. John heads to the roof and tries to contact the police using Tony's radio, but they dismiss it as a prank and tell him to hang up. Hans overhears this and sends Carl, along with Franco and silky-haired Fritz, to the roof. Spotting McClane, they open fire, forcing him to run for cover and prompting the cops to consider sending their best officer to investigate. Sergeant Al, currently grabbing snacks for his pregnant wife, gets the call and witnesses the gunfire from the street below. On the roof, John escapes back inside the building and manages to lose them by using his weapon to stop a spinning fan blade. The resourceful cop then turns it into a makeshift grappling hook to descend a ventilation shaft, losing it in the process. Although Carl is ordered to return by Hans, he starts ignoring orders to catch McClane. Carl nearly discovers him in the vents or gets shot from above by Fritz when he gets word that the police have arrived, prompting him to return to Hans. John heads to the conference room to catch Al's attention, but ends up getting the drop on Marco. As Marco ducks, Heinrich takes the brunt of the gunfire. John takes cover under a table until Marco needs a reload, and since he doesn't bother to take cover, he ends up catching an entire clip. Al arrives at the entrance, greeted by Eddie, who has the cushiest job on the crew, just sitting at the desk, watching the game. After an exhaustive search with no leads, Sergeant Al decides to call it a night, mindful of his wife eagerly awaiting her Twinkies. However, John grabs his attention with the corpse of Marco and a slick one-liner, heard only by himself. Gruber's mercenaries open fire on Al, but in a display of skillful driving, he deftly avoids danger and elegantly parks nearby. The LAPD arrives in full force, surrounding the tower, but it's all unfolding just as Hans planned. While attempting to extract any information from the uncooperative hare in his soup, Hans interrogates John over the radio. John remains tight-lipped, revealing only that he possesses the crucial detonators for Gruber's plan. After a snarky sign-off, Hans orders Carl and his mercenaries to track down McClane and retrieve the detonators. On the radio with Al, John shares that Gruber's crew is now down to 9 members, along with any other details he can recall. Deputy Police Chief Robinson arrives with a SWAT team, exhibiting skepticism toward anything Al has to say. He even suggests that Marco might have been a depressed stockbroker. Reports on the siege by Richard Thornburg alert Argyle to the fact that he's locked inside the garage, having partied up without a clue. Dwayne attempts to send SWAT in, but Theo monitors their movements and positions Yuli and Billy at the front door, where Billy can't resist a late-night snack. When the SWAT team reaches the front door, Billy opens fire, forcing them to retreat and call in the pride of the LAPD, an armored SWAT vehicle that drives right up to the front doors. However, Hans has a plan for that too. He sends James, armed with a rocket launcher, to meet a second newcomer, Alexander, presumably the heavy weapons specialist. They secure a giant launcher into the floor and fire 2 rockets at the vehicle, completely disabling it. To put an end to the chaos, John sends some detonators and C4 down an elevator shaft on top of them, blowing out the entire floor and killing both Jimmy and Alex. Throughout the night, John and Al develop a friendship, exchanging friendly banter while dropping one of the 50+ F-bombs in this film whenever Rich chimes in. Out of his mind, Ellis tries to negotiate with Hans, claiming he's an old friend of John. Gruber, thinking he now has leverage, interrupts a conversation between John and Al to threaten that he has his friend hostage. Since John had never met Ellis before tonight, and he can't give back the detonators, he goes radio silent, leaving Ellis to receive the Takagi special. At this point, Hans takes to the radio and issues a list of impossible demands to Thornburg, calling for the release of 3 groups of terrorists from prisons worldwide. It's all a smokescreen to buy time for the robbery. Hans then goes to inspect the explosives but finds himself cornered by McClane. Cunningly, he pulls off an American accent, pretending to be an escaped hostage who thinks John is a terrorist. The detective, believing the act, hands Hans a pistol to help find a way out. However, Gruber turns the tables, attempting to pull the trigger. John reveals the unloaded pistol, confirming he's talking to Hans, whom he had never seen before. Just then, 2 men enter, and John shoots Fritz dead. He also shoots out Franco's legs, sending him crashing into glass. Although Carl manages to pin John down in a glass server room, Gruber instructs him to shoot the glass, having noticed that John is still barefoot. Hans's plan succeeds, forcing John to flee by dragging his bloody feet into a nearby bathroom, leaving the detonators to be retrieved by Hans. Meanwhile, Carl is furious that his brother's killer is still alive. In the bathroom, John begins removing glass shards from his foot, while sharing with Al that he hasn't had the nerve to pull his pistol since accidentally shooting a 13-year-old boy. John instructs Al to let Holly know that he loves her and heads back to the rooftop. He learns that Hans doesn't intend to use the helicopter to escape, but plans to blow up the rooftop, with Yuli forcing hostages to join him to create a cover for his disappearance. Carl captures John, and the two engage in a brutal fight. Carl, not averse to fighting his brother's much smaller killer with his bare hands, dominates the fight, even landing a bullet in John's shoulder. However, John turns the tables by wrapping a chain around Carl's neck and hanging him. On his way to the rooftop, McClane guns down Yuli and starts shooting to get the hostages back inside. The reason for involving the police becomes clear as Special Agent Johnson and his unrelated partner, Agent Johnson, arrive on the scene. They disconnect the power, shutting down the final electromagnetic lock on the vault, giving Hans what he wants. The two agents then take a helicopter to the top of the tower in an attempt to engage terrorists but end up shooting at John by mistake. With the hostages safely back inside, the only casualties caused by the helipad exploding are the unrelated Johnson brothers. John escapes by tying a fire hose around his waist, jumping from the rooftop, shooting out a window to regain entry, and then untying the hose before it falls and drags him over as well. Ellis leaks McClane's name on the radio. Thornburg locates Holly's home and threatens her housekeeper with deportation. Thornburg broadcasts an interview with the family, revealing John as Holly's husband, alerting Hans, who keeps her hostage by the vault. With only 4 terrorists left, Argyle notices Theo preparing an ambulance as their real getaway vehicle in the garage. At full speed, he crashes the limo into the side, finishing Theo off with a mean cross. John is left with only 2 bullets in his pistol, so he knocks Christoph out in the shortest appearance by any of the terrorists and bluffs the remaining 2 with his unloaded weapon. With Holly as his hostage, Hans orders John to drop the weapon and tells Eddie not to fire. He wants to boast for a moment before killing the troublemaker, but in doing so, gives John time to draw the pistol taped to his back, killing Eddie and hitting Hans. Tumbling backward, Gruber grabs Holly, almost dragging her out the window, but he's only holding on by her Rolex. Before he can pull his trigger, John detaches it, sending him plummeting from the Nakatomi Plaza. With Hans scraped off the sidewalk, the McClane fam reunites and bounces together to meet Al for the first time. John and Al share a bro hug, but Dwayne jumps in, babbling about property damage or whatever. Carl, the dude who pretended to be a hostage, makes a comeback, trying to take down John. But Al shows off his quick draw skills and shuts him down, although he almost shoots another kid when Argyle zooms in a bit too fast. On their way out, Holly gives Thornburg's nose a makeover for dragging her kids into the mess and dips in what's left of Argyle's ride, cruising into the remnants of Los Angeles. And that's a wrap on the movie. If you managed to get this far, we sincerely thank you for watching the whole thing. If you have a movie or TV show that you want us to cover, just comment it down below. We might do a video of it in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our playlist for more recaps.